Thanks, Sanaa. It's October, which means the season of the scary movie is upon us. Now, everyone loves to get a blanket, sit down, and bawl his or her eyes out an hour and a half of horror. I mean, after all, who doesn't like their friends screaming their lungs out because they just brutally murdered someone on camera who refused to run away from the creepy noise? Horror movies are the essential part of Halloween, and just how do we know the horror movie we are watching is any good? I'm McCondichie, here to give you a list of the things you need to look out for when you want to find the perfect horror film. For starters, the movie has to have a creepy atmosphere. If the general setting of the film doesn't bother you in the slightest, then the movie's not doing its job properly. An excellent example of utilizing the backdrop to create horror ambiance is Ridley Scott's Alien. For those of you who for some reason have never seen this movie, make sure to put it on your list this Halloween. The movie is set in the depths of space upon the mining craft Nostromo. Imagine that setting for a second. You're stuck in space with some unknown creature on a mining craft with no weapons. If that setting itself does not creep you out, then I don't know what will. The setting allows for Ridley Scott to provide an intense sense of claustrophobia. Every scene is compact, and the amount of corridor and vents in the ship gives the alien plenty of places to hide. A great horror movie shows you right in the setting no viewer would want to be in. Nobody wants to be stuck on a spaceship in the blackness of the universe. This setting is why Alien accomplishes being a horror movie so well. I mean, the setting provides the atmosphere, but the next thing all great horror movies do is creep the viewer out. Now, this does seem kind of like a no-brainer. However, you'd be surprised how many scary movies rely on jump scares to make the viewer think they saw a good movie. Let me be clear. Jump scares do not mean you saw a good movie. Jumping on the seat because the director keeps flashing scary images with loud noises on the scene is not nearly as effective as making the viewer uncomfortable and genuinely agitated by what they see on the screen. Take, for instance, Nightmare on Elm Street by Wes Craven. This movie hardly has a jump scare in it, yet is one of the most, if not the best, horror flicks of all time. The reason it's so good is because it creeps out the viewer exceptionally well. For instance, when Freddy tries to scare the kids, he makes them cringe in whatever way he can, whether it be scratching his claws against metal or cutting his skin to reveal worms underneath. Freddy Krueger scares people by making their skin crawl and keeping people at an uneasy state. He doesn't need to pop out and yell boo. This does not mean a good movie shouldn't have jump scares, just they should keep them to a minimum. Think of a scary movie like a roller coaster. You don't want loops every 10 seconds of the track. Instead, you want a suspense-filled ride with lots of ups and downs and the occasional loop to add a little flair. The final thing an awesome scary movie needs, the cherry on top of our horror sundae, is a set of rules the creature has to follow. These rules get the audience invested in the lore of the story. When the viewer knows the rules of a horror movie, they're always looking out for someone to break them. Now, that being said, a horror movie doesn't need to blatantly state its rules, but should always abide by them. It follows, perhaps the best horror movie of 2015, crafts a perfect example of this simple yet tension-building rules. Now, since the movie just recently came out, I will warn you, some spoilers are ahead. The creature it follows can only walk towards you. The creature must also follow the order by which it's passed down, and those who have contracted it are the only ones who can see it. The viewer watches the movie with these rules in mind and will constantly be on the lookout for that creature. Maybe among the crowd, maybe he's not. Who knows? The rules give the creature an anchor to reality. If the monster has no rules, the movie's no longer fun to watch because then it's just too easy for it to go and kill people. It should also be mentioned that occasionally the victims will have rules that they cannot break either. In the instance of It Follows, the victim always has to have two exits and should never let the walking monstrosity touch it. Rules ground the story in reality and help connect the viewer to the tension ensuing. Think of the rules in a horror movie as a wink to the audience. They basically tell you when something scary will happen. Now, this may seem a tad confusing to those of you who have not seen the movie, but in context of the movie, the rules set by the story create the suspense horror junkies crave from their Halloween movies. So that's it. The key attributes all horror films need to be successful. So after the show, don't be afraid to hop on to Netflix, pick a film from the horror section, and get to looking for these things. And by looking, I mean covering your eyes and whispering, no, 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 over and over again. After the break, Sana McKenzie will be back to close out the show.